Hi, it's Worth from Singing Streets, and I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, with my brother John.
Good
Hello,
to see
brother.
you. Hello.
Good to see you. We are here at a place that John had a hand in rediscovering. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, well, Mamie Smith, who famously recorded the first um, vocal blues record
Called Crazy
called
Blues.
Crazy Blues, and it's just a hugely important figure in the evolution of American music and especially African American music. And it had been known for a long time, or suspected rather, that she came from Cincinnati, that she'd been born here.
Right.
But there
But
were
there was some
no,
obfuscation, right, in the press that she didn't want to be known from.
well, that was part of it. Yeah, she would pretend sometimes to be from places in the deep South,
Right.
knowing that that
More
signaled
authenticity.
greater authenticity,
Right.
for a blues singer especially.
Sure.
Um, but she really came from Cincinnati, and there's a deeper pattern there, because the blues origins could often be found in the Midwestern river cities,
Right.
which doesn't really fit into the mythology quite as
Hmm.
neatly, but
It's not the train ride up to New York or Chicago.
exactly, or the plantation.
Right.
It's something in between and a little more complicated,
Right.
and she reflects that. So yeah, so it was known that she, or believed that she was from Cincinnati, but there were no records to prove that, um, and no records at all showing her very early life, and that had been the situation for a long time, and it had kind of bedeviled researchers, and I love little problems like that. So I started digging on it, and trying to find out what the story was, and I found a, a telephone book, a Cincinnati telephone book from, I think, about 1906, maybe something like that,
Right.
or earlier actually, late 19th century, where she was identified as living in a household belonging to a man named Robinson, Chris Robinson.
Chris Robin.
Now, so I started thinking, oh well, I wonder, I should be looking for Robinsons, and sure
Right.
enough, her real birth certificate surfaced, and
Right.
her name at birth was Mary Robinson.
Mary Robinson.
Mary Robinson.
So
And
was she his daughter?
she was his daughter. Yes, that was her birth father,
Right.
as far as we know.
Right.
Um, and it had some addresses, and well, but before I get into that, I should say, a lot of good sound effects down
Yeah.
here today. One really interesting thing that came up is that we'd had her birth date wrong all along. She was actually born almost a full decade earlier than
Wow.
the official story, which was significant because it put her in a position to get exposed to the very early blues forms that were emerging on the vaudeville stage.
Right.
Often when you read about Mamie, they'll kind of say, well, she wasn't a real blues figure. She was a vaudeville figure. They just kind of brought her in to do this blues record. Well, no, really, she shared the stage with the singers and the acts who were doing the songs that people consider the first authentic blues,
Right.
that
And it
first
would have been
crop of,
vaudeville or
well, it was kind of in between.
right.
It was a
So
messy
blackface,
period. Yeah,
a little, yeah.
definitely there was blackface happening, and a lot of the kind of medicine show, minstrel show
Right.
stuff. But then you had this, what we would describe as very authentic blues, these blues influences kind of running into that, and it's all mixing on the stage, and she's right there for it as a kid,
Right.
taking it all in, and then she brings that to her first recorded performances around 1920. Wow.
And then later lied about her age to
lied about
like
her
most
age,
people in show business.
Exactly, lied about where she was from,
right.
with the result that her we're looking at her birth
Yeah.
place. Her death place is also very complicated.
Right.
The marker is on the wrong grave.
And where is that?
That's in New York.
Okay.
But we won't even get into that.
Yeah.
That's a separate. We can go there and do.
We'll go
a video.
there. Part 2. But now,
14 Perry. So anyway,
this is 14 Perry.
Yes. So this was 14 Perry. It now has a different address, and this is not the original building. The only thing that's original here is in the substructure. If you go down there, some ancient, very creepy, almost caves underneath this building.
There.
We were down there once.
Right.
Coal tunnels. Now, one of them we didn't have the nerve to explore, but I assume it went to the river or something, because it went way too far to have just been a storage.
And the river's
space.
just over here.
It's just over here, yeah. So under the street, and this was a hotel, I think.
Right.
When this was 14 Perry, it was a boarding house. She was born. Her parents lived in a boarding house, the Robinson household. And one interesting detail I'll tell you is we know the name of the midwife who caught her, as they say, who brought her into the world, and that was a woman named Mariah Moore, and she was the oldest woman in Cincinnati at that time. She was over 100 years old. It's difficult to figure out exactly how old, but she was very ancient and died not long after that. Mamie was one of the last babies she caught.
How do we know that? How do you know that?
Because her name is on that same birth certificate where Mary Robinson is identified. Yeah, right. And yeah, this is the spot right here where this is one of the blues. Yes, one of the places where the blues was born. Right here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's an honor. Fantastic. Yeah, y'all should check out Singing Streets if you're into the history of popular music and traveling.
And unpopular music.
And unpopular music and music nobody wants to listen to.
Right there.